Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the Call Center Contact Center podcast. We try to give you some actionable items, take in your contact center, improve the overall quality, improve the agent experience, hopefully improve your customer experience as well. My name is Tom Laird. I'm the CEO here at Expivia Interaction Marketing. I hope everybody is doing well. We are a couple days from 2023 as I record this. And I've talked so much over the last couple of days. And again, I have to just remember this is a podcast. So you could be listening to this like 3 years down the road from now. But we've spoke so much on, I just keep calling it airline support Mageddon. Here in the Christmas season of 2022, a giant storm has really knocked Southwest and a lot of other airlines really to their heels. And we've seen a lot of breakdowns in the customer support model from a lot of them. So it's gotten my thoughts going on a lot of different topics. One of them is, which I did an episode yesterday where we kind of talked about, what happens when like kind of all hell breaks loose and you need to, quickly figure out how do I get these, hundreds or thousands of calls that we now have in queue that we were not expecting. What do we do with them? And again, that's not there are a couple of things obviously you can do at that time. But that is more of an infrastructure in planning, I think, than in making sure that you're ready to go with some of those things. So today I wanted to talk about some ways that we can route calls, because I think that was a topic yesterday that I kind of brought up. And then I got a bunch of questions, especially on TikTok, on what are some of the kind of the unique ways that contact centers can route calls. And I wanted to throw some of these out at you guys. And these are all things that we're doing right now in our call center, right? So I have some, kind of upfront experience with some of this. Some of this is really cool. I would say 90% of this we're doing, because I'm going to talk about some things that I think are coming. Some people that I've talked to on routing calls based on voice and personality and those kind of things, which I think is really cool as the AI model starts to evolve. But the first thing is, there's two different ways that you can route, right? There's kind of the basic way, there's the advanced way. A lot of smaller call centers think that, data integration is maybe beyond them. So they just keep their regular telephony platform, and you can only do so much with that, right? You can segment calls, based on skills, right? Skills basically is kind of either a department or a phone number. So if you have one phone number coming in, 1-800-555-5555, right? It comes in your IVR. You can then segment those calls, either based on customer, based on need. So you could have customer support, tech support, logistics, sales. I think we understand that. Those can be routed to reps. That's about, there's some other ways, and I'm going to talk a little bit on some workforce intelligence things and some AI on moving reps here and there. But for the most part, you can get, I guess, pretty technical with that if you want, but it's not that unique or cool. So if you get into the really cool, unique stuff, you have to, bring in data, right? And we look at routing off of actual CRM data. And it doesn't just have to be their Annie, and Annie meaning their phone number. It doesn't just have to be name. We can go deep into the list if we have fields filled out to route specific customers based on some type of criteria that we have in their CRM. So let's talk a couple ways that we can do this. So now we are assuming we have tight integrations with either an off-the-shelf CRM, a Salesforce, a Zoho, a Zendesk, or even a full proprietary CRM that maybe your organization uses, that you have built out. And then through API connectivity, connections can be made really no matter what, as long as, there's fields and there's data that we can quote unquote read, right? So, the number one thing is I think customer segmentation is a huge piece of the customer experience that not enough organizations are utilizing. So customer segmentation could mean multiple things, but just like off the top of my head, the first one that always comes to mind is high value customers, right? So again, I keep using this. Airlines are kind of just right in my head. So let's say, you're a 5 million miler, right, on XYZ airline. and you would probably have a concierge and some special phone numbers for you. But let's just say that you call customer support. Well, as soon as that call then gets answered, it's going to go look at the data, see if anything is tagged of you being a high value customer. You are. So then boom, you can move to the front of the queue. You're the next one to get your call answered. So I think that's there's a really kind of cool example of back in the day. We worked for a very, very large bank, and one of the board of directors had their card declined for some weird reason. We are heavy in queue, and that person, waited in queue for like, they said 10 minutes, was probably like a minute 30, right? But anyway, they waited, and we heard about it. So after that, we made sure that, we find out who the board of directors are. And again, it's probably very bougie, right? And I don't know, it's ethical. It's not like it's not ethical, but it's such a kind of a sense of entitlement, but I guess maybe you earn it. I don't know. But anyway, so anytime that they would call, boom, they would go right to the front of the line. So that's one: customer segmentation, high value customers. Another one is biggest need, right? So if you can, anything that you work your data with, and you can quickly tag your data with, say, again, using this airline example, let's say that all of the customers that are currently had their flights canceled go to the front of the line. Anyone who has a flight in the next 72 hours, they go to the bottom of the line, right? So it's not just longest in queue gets answered, but we're actually moving people around based on some business rules that we have. Special needs is another one too. So, everybody's, had that. Maybe you call to make a payment. Maybe you're a day late on your payment, and then instantly, as soon as you call, boom, you go to collections, right? So because they flagged your account as a collection account, it moves to there. Same thing could happen just like on the good end, right? Going to a concierge, going somewhere that's, put you up on the line. This can also take you to a different department that the company wants to talk to you about. A lot of things that you can do with data, right? The other thing is, I've given this example a couple of times, but I think it's really cool. And it's one of the things that, I think really shows how powerful this is. So we have a client, and they have thousands of financial advisors, and they have lots of different ways to get these advisors appointments. One of the ways, right, is to have outbound or emails or direct mail customer calls in to schedule an appointment. So we don't want to just be a blanket, hey, thank you for calling Financial Advisors Inc. They wanted us to be able to answer the phone with their actual financial advisor that this customer has. So we said, okay, so they use Salesforce. So as calls come in, right, that 1 millisecond, it goes and looks at the data, looks at the ANI, right, looks at the phone number, finds the phone number of the record of that customer, finds what financial advisor they have, and then that data then goes to our rep on their screen, pops the screen with proper scripting and with, what financial advisor, so they can answer, thank you for calling, Susan Drone's finance department or financial services company. So any piece of data now, we are able to route calls to not only, pop screens and pop data, but maybe I have dealt with this customer 3 or 4 times. So I'm going to be the first look to get that call so that they hear my voice again. So I think that just kind of improves the customer experience and gets a little bit of familiarity with it. There's a lot of unique things that are coming. I just kind of demoed with a company in Pittsburgh, and they are looking to do voice authentication without any setup. Just basically not fully authenticate, but basically be able to tell you, hey, this is a female between the ages of 35 and 42. Be able to tell inflection in their voice and give a 92 or 97% chance that this is that customer. So using voice to authenticate is nothing new. Using voice now to route, Nice CX1 has worked and talked with, using personality and personality traits, based on voice and based on past experiences that you've had. And then, utilizing that to then route calls to a specific agent, right? We know there's certain agents that are super nice and super friendly. We know there's certain agents that maybe are more to the point. And if we can match those personalities right together, I think, again, we're just improving that customer experience. So Nathan here has a question. How is new data implemented into the system? So everything that your CRM has to be on point, right? It's kind of whatever you put in. If it's good going in, it's going to be good coming out. If it's garbage going in, it's garbage going out. So it's all about the data, right? All we are doing is utilizing that data to route calls, but your CRM has to be on point. Your customer information has to be on point. I think the good way is you can update records really fast in a database, right? So if we say, hey, we want to take these 10,000 customers and offer them a special promotion with a recording, we can update that in 1 second. So then when they call, maybe they hear a special recording and we don't have to really do anything, other than just, making sure that our data is right from a really quick setup and standpoint. So I think working with data is much easier than working with the telephony piece, right? And I think it's much quick. I shouldn't say more difficult. It's quicker because it's just working in a database. And if you're good at that, it's, again, the art and the science of this thing. You can really be an artist with a lot of the data and the things that you're doing. Other things that happen, let's just talk about in queue, right? So not so much from a routing standpoint, but we've all heard of their virtual callbacks, right? So to be able to implement, if you're a minute 30 or 2 minutes in queue, to have that voice come up to, hey, would you like your place in line saved? And when you get up to the agent, we'll make a call to you. Those are really good from a customer experience standpoint. We have seen sentiment scores raised about 20%, when a customer has come to ours where we've implemented that, where we know we were going to have queues on Monday, Tuesdays, like, from a budgetary standpoint, they knew we were going to queue, but being able to implement those kind of things from a customer experience standpoint, raised our sentiment scores or raised their clients' sentiment scores, 15 to 20%. So I think that is a unique tool that we're utilizing in queue. The other things that, I think are really, really cool is, and I know most platforms have something like this. In fact, what the heck? It was the Business Advocate. That's what it was. It's called the Business Advocate. It was Avaya had this product, and we're talking like early 2000s. And I thought it was like the most genius thing ever. And basically what it does is, let's say we have multiple queues. You have, let's say, customer support. And let's just do this easy, because I always give like 4 or 5 different skills and I get confused. So let's just say we have sales and we have service. And we know that we probably want our sales calls, or most organizations probably want their sales calls, answered before their service calls. Now, again, I'm simplifying this. I understand that we could use skills-based routing and we could prioritize different agents, but let's say, it gets too confusing, right? Because again, I'm only using 2 skills, but this could be done over 10. We need this to be at a 90-10. So 90% of the calls in our sales queue, 90% of the calls answer within 10 seconds or less. And this, we want an 80-30. 80% of the calls answer within 30 seconds or less. So what the Business Advocate did, and now what a lot of these platforms, CX1 calls it workforce intelligence, is it's using AI and it's using algorithms to basically predict a queue, and it can look at things like workforce management, your forecasts, your interval forecast to say, understand what time periods, are the heaviest times, when it's expecting calls, what it's seeing in the IVR. So it's taking all this data into account, and without a human being, it can move agents over, right, from your service queue or skill to make sure that we stay at this 90-10. So it's moving them back and forth kind of all day long, right, making sure that this is as close as it can be to an 80-30, but our priority is this to be a 90-10. So again, super simple example, but can you imagine this if you have, 20 skills and there's 5 of them that you need to guarantee a specific service level, or you want the best service level and you don't want to have your supervisors or your managers all day long moving people in and out. Well, this is a way that, I can almost say to a client, I can guarantee you a service level, to a certain extent based on staffing, because of workforce intelligence. We can do that on service level. You can do this on handle time. So let's say you have a new agent and we say, hey, if anytime the new agent, if their handle time goes over 6 minutes, we're going to drop their priority level down from, 1 where everybody's at to maybe a 3, so that they start to take less calls. And then once they work their handle time back down, to that 5:59, boom, they go back to a 1 and they can start to take calls. So a lot of, again, kind of routing, because you're kind of telling the system where calls are going to, and you're trying to get the customer to the best agent, or at least to the business rule that we're trying to have, right? Whether it be a service level or a handle time with that. So I think that's a really cool and unique way to kind of look at how we route calls as well. So again, that is very general. I mean, I could talk on this stuff really all day long, but again, I think the main point of this is to, in 2023, if you don't have your telephony and your data integrated, you need to look to do that. You need to look to build that out. It's not that expensive, even from a programming standpoint. If you have one of the high-end telephony platforms, if you have the nice CX1, the Genesis, the 5.9, the TalkDesk, the UJet, the Amazon Connect, any of those, right, we'll have pre-built integrations already into Salesforce, Zoho, Zendesk, and a wide variety, Teams, wide variety, Microsoft Dynamics. I can keep going on, of CRMs. And then it may take a little bit more work if you have your own proprietary system. But, I think that that's something that you could do, especially if we have an economic, a little bit of a downturn, right? You have some budget, but it's not as big as it was. It's a great way to spend budget that you will absolutely improve your customer experience. And it will open your eyes to a lot of different ways to route specifically to either specific agents, or have certain customers segmented that you can improve, customer experience from maybe high value or somebody who's really, really in need at that time. So that's kind of what I got for you guys for today. Again, this whole snowmageddon has just spurred so many different thoughts and things that I think can add some value, as I've been kind of thinking, like, what would I do, if I was the call center manager, if I was in charge of that floor, out at Southwest. Not only what I would do now, right, but what are some of the things that, in the future from an infrastructure standpoint, do we really need to look at? And I think there'll be studies and talks about this in kind of our industry for a very, very long time. But these are just some of my initial thoughts. So again, I will not be doing another podcast this year. So it is, again, as I do this, it's the 28th of December. So I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. Have a great New Year. I will talk to all of you guys in 2023.